I need to tell you what happened to me last month in my apartment in San Francisco. I know how this sounds, trust me. I've replayed it in my head 1,000 times, looking for logical explanations. But I can't shake what I saw, what I heard. And after researching the history of my building, I understand why my reflection knew things that I never told a soul. It started on a Tuesday night in October. I'm Sarah Chen, 26, working as a graphic designer in the Mission District. I'd been living in this converted Victorian for about 6 months, one of those old houses carved up into studio apartments that you find all over the city. The rent was suspiciously cheap for the area, but I figured it was just because the place was old and quirky. The bathroom mirror, in particular, was this massive antique thing, probably original to the house from the 1890s. Ornate brass frame, slightly warped glass that made everything look just a little off. That Tuesday, I was getting ready for bed, washing my face at the bathroom sink. The overhead light flickered, old wiring, nothing unusual. But in that moment of stuttering illumination, I saw my reflection mouth the words, "He's coming back for you, Sarah." My blood went cold. I hadn't spoken. My mouth was full of toothpaste foam, but my reflection's lips had moved, clear as day, forming those exact words. I spit into the sink, my hands shaking, as I gripped the porcelain edge. "What the hell?" I whispered, staring at myself in the mirror. My reflection stared back, perfectly normal now, mimicking my confused expression. I must have imagined it. Stress from work, too much caffeine, not enough sleep. I convinced myself it was nothing and went to bed. But it happened again the next night. This time, I was brushing my teeth when my reflection suddenly stopped moving. I kept brushing, but whatever you want to call it, just stood there, toothbrush frozen halfway to her mouth. Then she smiled. Not my smile. A cold, knowing smile that sent ice through my veins. "You can't hide from him forever," my reflection whispered, though my own mouth was still full of toothpaste. "He knows about the accident." I dropped my toothbrush. It clattered against the sink, the sound echoing in the small bathroom. My reflection resumed normal movement, looking just as shocked as I felt. But I hadn't imagined those words. The accident, that was something I'd never told anyone about. Not my parents, not my therapist, not my closest friends. It happened when I was 16, driving home from a party. I'd hit something, or someone, on a dark country road outside my hometown in Ohio. I'd stopped, checked the front of my car, found a small dent and some blood on the bumper. But when I looked around, there was nothing. No body, no injured person calling for help. Just empty roads stretching in both directions. I convinced myself I'd hit a deer, filed an insurance claim, got the car fixed, and buried the memory so deep I almost believed my own lie. Almost. But somehow, my reflection knew. I started avoiding the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth in the kitchen sink, washing my face with my eyes closed. But you can't avoid your reflection forever in a studio apartment. Every surface, the black television screen, the windows at night, even the back of my phone, showed glimpses of movement that didn't match my own. A week later, I was working late on a project when I caught movement in my peripheral vision. In the dark computer screen, my reflection was typing on a keyboard, but her fingers were moving differently than mine. I minimized my work and opened a blank document. Without looking at the screen, I let my fingers move across the keys, typing whatever my reflection was typing. When I finally looked, my blood ran cold. His name was Marcus Thompson, 73 years old, walking home from his night shift at the cannery. You left him dying in the ditch on Millfield Road, October 13, 2014. He crawled 12 feet before his heart gave out. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Marcus Thompson. The name hit me like a physical blow. I'd never known his name, never looked back, never checked the local news. I'd buried it so completely that I'd almost convinced myself it never happened. But my reflection remembered everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every reflective surface in the apartment seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, unplugged the television, closed all the blinds. But at 3:17 a.m., I woke to the sound of whispering. It was coming from the bathroom. I crept toward the door, which I'd left slightly ajar. The towel had fallen from the mirror or been pulled down. In the dim light filtering through the window, I could see my reflection in the mirror, but she wasn't in bed like I was. She was standing at the sink, talking to someone I couldn't see. She's been running for 10 years, my reflection was saying. Changing cities, changing jobs, changing her whole life. But you followed her here, didn't you, Marcus? A chill ran down my spine as I realized she was right. Every major move I'd made, every job change, every relationship that had ended, it all traced back to that night. I'd been running without even realizing it, always feeling like something was chasing me, always looking over my shoulder. I pushed the bathroom door open wider, and my reflection turned to look directly at me. Not at my reflection, but at the actual me standing in the doorway. "He wants you to know he forgives you," she said, her voice carrying a sadness that seemed to come from somewhere deep and ancient. "But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and neither is running." I didn't mean to," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I was scared. I was just a kid." "He knows," my reflection replied. "He's been trying to tell you for years. Every nightmare, every moment of unexplained guilt, every relationship you sabotaged because you didn't think you deserved happiness, that was him, trying to reach you." I sank to my knees in the doorway, overwhelmed by a decade of suppressed grief and guilt. "What does he want from me?" My reflection smiled sadly. "The truth, the real truth, not the lie you've been telling yourself." The next morning, I called the Millfield County Sheriff's Department in Ohio. I told them everything about the accident, about leaving the scene, about Marcus Thompson. They were surprisingly kind, patient with my stuttering confession. The case had been closed as an unsolved hit and run, but Marcus's family had never given up hope for answers. Detective Rivera, who took my statement, told me that Marcus's daughter had been fighting for years to get the case reopened. She'd known her father would never just disappear, never abandon his family. My confession finally gave them closure. I pled guilty to leaving the scene of a fatal accident. With 10 years past and my cooperation, I received probation and community service. But more importantly, I was able to meet Marcus's family, to apologize in person, to finally carry the weight I'd been running from. The strange thing is, after I made that call, my reflection went back to normal. No more whispered secrets, no more independent movement. Just me looking back at me, the way it should be. But I kept that old mirror. Sometimes, late at night, I catch glimpses of something in the warped glass, not threatening, but watchful, protective. Even like Marcus Thompson is still there, making sure I keep living with the truth instead of running from it. I researched the history of my building after everything happened. The Victorian was built in 1887 by a ship captain named Edmund Hayes. In 1923, Hayes's daughter Margaret died by suicide in what is now my bathroom, standing in front of that very mirror. The neighbors said she'd been talking to herself for weeks before it happened, carrying on conversations with someone nobody else could see. Maybe some mirrors don't just reflect what's in front of them. Maybe they hold on to the truth, even when we try to hide from it. Maybe Margaret had been running from something too, and the mirror knew all her secrets just like it knew mine. I still live in that apartment. The rent's still cheap, and now I know why. But I also know I'm not alone. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. Something that won't let you lie to yourself. Something that reflects not just your face, but your truth. Have you ever caught your reflection doing something you weren't doing? Moving differently? Showing emotions you weren't feeling? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Because after what I experienced, I'm convinced that mirrors show us more than we think. And sometimes, that's exactly what we need to see. The truth has a way of finding us, even when we spend years running from it. Sometimes it takes a haunted mirror and the ghost of our mistakes to make us finally face what we've done.